Gallion. And when were you born?
October the 30th, 1903.
1903. So this is 1987. Okay, you were born the day before Halloween.
Right.
um, were you born like in a hospital or in a house? Or?
At home in New Cambria, Kansas.
New Cambria, Kansas? Where's that?
Right between Solomon and Slina.
And did you grow up in that house?
In that neighborhood. We lived mostly in the country. Later years, we lived in town. Oh, I don't know how too long. Because I was about 4 years old, I know, when we moved to the country. But we lived around in that neighborhood until I got married and moved to Dickinson.
Okay. How about brothers and sisters?
Well, I had 3 sisters and 3 brothers.
Oh. Where were you in this line?
I'm the second to the oldest. I had an older brother, and then me, and then another brother, and then 2 sisters, and another brother and a sister.
Goodness. Let's see here. What were your parents' names and your mom's maiden name?
Ellen Rena Ball.
Ellen Rena Ball. How do you spell Ball?
Well, they spelled it B-O-L-L, but it always was pronounced Ball. You would think it'd be Bull or something like that.
She went by Rena, didn't she? Did she go by Rena?
Yes.
And how about your dad?
My dad's name was William Sherman.
William Sherman Gallion. What did he do? Ready? What did your dad do?
Well, he worked on the bridge gang on the railroad when we lived in New Cambria, when my brother and I were both small. And I think I was around 4 years old when he started farming. That's what he did the rest of his life. He farmed.
He farmed grain?
And
is he a grain farmer or
yeah, grain and livestock. He raised all kinds of, chickens, geese, ducks, turkeys.
Oh, okay.
Milked a lot of cows usually.
Okay. How about school? Where did you go to school? What was that like?
Went to school. When I first started to school, we had 2.5 miles. And we lived north of Salina, 9 miles. And there was a country school. I forget the name of the district. But it seems to me it was all clear up to the 9th grade. Through the 8th grade. And they was kids of all ages. Some of the boys were the older boys was as big as the teacher.
And you were all in the same classroom?
Yeah.
Oh.
And all got out at the same, recess and all that.
And then did you go there through 9th grade?
No, we changed schools then, but I went to another school, and it was it was district number 10, but it was in the country too, around, let me see, about 3 or 4, about 6 miles north of New Cambria, and then back a mile east.
And did you walk to school?
Well, when the weather was nice, we did sometimes, but we usually drove. We had a pony.
Oh.
And a 2-wheeled cart.
Oh.
And we drove that most of the time, my older brother and I. And of course, when the other ones got old enough to go, they got a spring wagon. And
tied the pony up outside and
Yeah, tied her up and, put her on a chain, a long chain, and took, they had what they called a little coal house, the country schools had everything outside, of course, and we kept feed in there for, and water. The boys would have to, hitch her up after school. They'd race sometimes.
They'd race their horses?
Yes, on a narrow road, and the buggy wheels would catch and spin. It was kind of dangerous. But we got through it.
How about chores at home? Did you go home and do, help with the cows and things like that?
I did. I helped milk. The boys done the other chores, but I helped milk and feed the calves. The boys liked to feed, but they wouldn't milk if they could get out of it at all, so I always helped my dad milk.
Is that where you got all your milk from your cows?
Oh, yeah. And our butter and cream and
You made your butter and your cream?
everything was homemade. I was baking bread when I was 12 years old.
Goodness.
Maybe
So
8 or 9 big loaves 3 times a week.
Wow.
Well, there was always people, neighbors and them helping each other, and then they'd stay for meals, during the harvesting season. And when they would cut wood for winter, why, they'd always be 4 or 5 extra,
So you slaughtered your own meat, made your own bread, and churned your own butter,
And then, we didn't have these freezers or anything, so we had to can it or fry it down and cover it with lard and seal it in stone jars. Now that's the way we used to put up our sausage. We'd fry it, put a big roaster full in the oven and fry it in the oven. And then we had 1 and 2 gallon stone jars. Usually we used more 1 gallons. And then we put it in there and covered it with the lard and had the stone lid on, and then they sealed it with hot wax, sealing wax they called it, around.
and then where did you put the jars?
We had a cave, an outside cellar,
Where it stayed cool?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it stayed pretty cool, really. And the only way we ever had, to cool anything was hang it in the well. We had a well, and we had ropes, on a pulley across. And we'd hang buckets on there, or cream lung with, and put our butter and cream and stuff down there. And of course, in wintertime, we didn't have no trouble. And
So
during the hot summer, we never lost very few things that we ever lost. And when I think of it now,
your mother was
it's
a busy
just
lady,
hard
I
to
guess.
believe, how much things have changed.
Right.
We have everything. It's much easier now in a lot of ways. Well, many ways. But still, it takes a lot of work to just keep it up. To keep our appliances and things up, really.
That's true. Sounds like everything took so long then, though.
Uh-huh. It's true.
Did you go to town much? Did you go?
We went once a week to Salina. That was our biggest town. And otherwise, we usually lived within 3 or 4 miles of a small town, like Niles, Kansas, over there now. We lived pretty close around to Niles, and we would drive. If we needed anything between times, we'd go there. But once a week, we would go to Salina. And some places we lived, we'd be a short distance. The furthest distance was around 13, 14 miles.
When you say drive, do you mean you drive a car? Or
No, the spring
drive your
wagon.
horses?
My dad, let me see. the Model first Fords, Model Ts. Grandpa bought one, and he would drive over, and then let one of us drive him back to home. He lived in New Cambridge, Kansas, all his life, that I can remember anyway.
Do you remember seeing the first car, or was that when you were real young?
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing the first car, or were you really young then?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
How about the first TV? When did you see that?
Oh, gee, I never saw TV until we lived here in town. That was like in 42 or 43. We went to Oklahoma City to visit my sister Mildred, and they had one. And I was fascinated with it from the start. The rest of them didn't pay too much attention to it, but I was. And as soon as they got the station in Wichita, we bought a TV.
In the 1940s? In the 1940s?
Our first one was, no, I don't remember, really.
What were the special treats when you were young? Like now it might be going to a movie or something like that. Was it going to Salina?
Mostly just skating parties on the river, ice skating,
Oh, in the winter.
from the time we were pretty small.
Oh.
And our Sunday school class would we would have, like, early on Sunday evening, two or three classes of us would gather. We had a nice long place where the river wasn't too deep and the ice was real smooth, and it was right over by Niles. And we would take weenies and buns, and we'd go out there about 4 o'clock and skate until dark. Sometimes had lanterns to light up.
That sounds fun. Now we're going to talk about some of your other relatives, grandparents, great-grandparents, things like that. What names do you know? Maiden names and
My
your
grandparents?
grandparents and great-grandparents?
Well, not too many, really. Now, like, my grandfather's was J.S. Ball.
J.S. Ball, what he went by?
And and my grandmother's name was Elizabeth. And
Do you know her maiden name?
I'm trying to think. I should. Huffman.
Huffman?
Hoffman, Hoffma, and they originated in Pennsylvania. All of them came from Pennsylvania.
Both sides of the family came from Pennsylvania? Or Hoffman?
No, my mother's family.
Oh.
And my dad's family were mostly from Ohio, as far as I know. We're having a family,
A reunion?
gemology or whatever.
Oh.
Made
yeah.
out. And I have a great niece, and she works in Virginia, and she has assets to a lot of the records at State House and places like that. So she's hunting up a lot of that stuff, but I don't know how long it's going to be before we get some of it here.
Right. When did they come to Kansas? Did your grandparents come to Kansas?
Yeah, they settled in Oklahoma first,
Mm-hmm.
and then they came from Oklahoma to Kansas.
They just wanted to push west? Is that why they came, or do you know?
Just because they thought they could do better. They thought they could maybe homestead land my grandparents didn't. They didn't. They didn't get here. They didn't get over the line before it was all taken.
In Oklahoma?
Uh-huh. They
They
came
worked in
from Oklahoma first, and then came to Kansas, and mostly settled right there in Saline County, Kansas. Most of them, some of my aunts and uncles scattered out a little, you know, but they still, most all of them lived in Kansas until they were, oh,
Did they come in covered wagons? Do you know?
I suppose. I don't know. I know.
I guess
Yes,
it's
they
probably-
did. Well, they came in wagons. I suppose they were covered.
Do you know anything about where any of the family came from in Europe before they came to the U.S.?
Not really. Now, on my mother's side, they came from from overseas someplace. I may be able to get more information when we get that.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Just, I mean, you've given us lots of information. When did you meet? Poppy. That's all I've ever heard him
Oh.
called.
Well, I met him, let me see, at Hard Dautel's out in the country here by Elmo. First time I met him. My friend, Hard Dautel's wife, married his brother, and I went to stay a week or two with them over the Christmas holidays, and he was living with them. It was him and his brother Harv owned 160 acres together, and my husband was married before and had one son, Virgil, and they were living. He was living with his brother Harv, 'cause they owned that place together. See, and that's when I met him. That was like in, let me see, can't remember the year.
Did you get married pretty quick after that? Or
No, about 2.5 years later. We got married, it must have been in about 1923, because we got married in 1925.
did you date for a while? I mean,
Yeah,
for about 2.5 years?
well, not quite all that time, not really dating. You know, he'd take me places when I was, or maybe take me home when I come down there to visit his brother's wife and things like that. But no, we didn't date. Well, we dated steady then about 9 months before we got married.
And you got married where?
In Junction City. We just went to we were on our way to Kansas City. We was going to get married there, and then it started raining and snowing late in October. We used to have quite a bit of snow in October those years. So we got married there, and it was raining so hard that we just went on to the beach that night and went to Kansas City the next day.
How were you traveling?
Yeah, how?
Were you
In a Model
Ford?
T Ford.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Model
He
T.
had a Model T.
Yeah, he had a Model T Ford Coupe. And I can't remember just what year it was. He'd had it about a year when we got married.
What do you know about his family? His background, maiden names, and where they came from?
Henry was his dad. They, I don't know where they came out here from, but they lived at the time that I knew them out by Elmo.
Do you know his mom's name?
Jack's mother's name? Yeah, Louisa. Matilda Louisa
Matilda Louisa?
Platts.
Platts was her maiden name?
Uh-huh. Now, she was from Wisconsin.
Now, when you say Jack, you mean John Dautel, Poppy.
Yeah. Now,
Okay.
this is his parents.
Right.
His
What was his dad's name?
Charles Henry.
Charles Henry Dautel.
Mm-hmm.
And Louise Platt.
Louise, well, they called her Matilda, I think.
But you don't know where Charles Henry came from?
No, I don't remember, really. But at a later time now, I can get that for you because they're having one of these genealogies made up, see. And one of the girls out west
Good one.
is having that done, and she keeps going further deep and deeper all the time, trying to get way, way back before she gets it made up. Some of us, we're back now to the second or third generation, and we'd like her to go ahead and finish it up. Because if she waits to go that back any further than that, it'll be a long time. Some of us probably won't be around to know what she had now, see.
Yeah.
I wish she would send us a copy.
Have you had more questions, Cindy?
Well, I guess we could, I was gonna ask her about her kids and things, but we get into there.
No, that's fine.
Where's Ricky?
Oh, my God.
I lost my place. Do you know where the Daughtels were from originally? In Europe? Where in Europe?
From where?
Where in Europe they came from?
No, I really don't.
Okay.
No, the Daughtels now, I don't know whether they came from Europe. It was the Balls, my mother's, that came. Some of them came from Europe.
Well, they probably came from Europe originally, at one time.
Well, I don't know
Or Austria. Which is
really
better.
about, I'm pretty well.
That's okay. How about your kids? Tell us when they were all born and their names.
Well, first was Delmer. He was born at home in Elmo, Kansas. And then Jackie was born at home in Elmo, Kansas. Jerry was born at home in Elmo, Kansas. Shirley was born at St. John's Hospital in Salina.
What was caring for a baby like then as compared to now? What was caring for a baby like then compared to what it's like now? I know you didn't have disposable diapers.
You mean like diapers and clothes and like that?
Just, yeah, how was it different?
Well, we sure never had any, just had to diaper them. Sometimes it was hard to even get rubber pants, so we kept pads on them, just kept changing them and washing, that's all. At the time that we lived in the country when all of them. Shirley was 7 years old when we moved to town.
What did Poppy do? What was his occupation?
Usually buy and sell livestock.
Did he do
And
that?
farmed, and he done some farming, but he liked to trade. He was a trader. Buy and sell livestock and trade.
Did he do that all his life?
All the time. But that's how I met him. had some nice horses, 2 pair of mules. We lived out on the farm south of Gibson, Kansas, and him and Harry Beatty stopped there and wanted to buy horses and mules from him. He didn't have any he wanted to sell right at that time. That's what my dad farmed with. He had 6 mules at one time, 3 pairs.
So did
And we always had riding ponies that we kids could ride. We always had.
So that's the first time you met Poppy. Was he?
Yeah, but I didn't know. I didn't even, I just knew his name. My dad come in and.
John Dautel.
Yeah.
Was he married to his first wife then?
No, she was dead at that time.
She was dead.
She died when Virgil was only 18 months old.
So when did she die from?
Well, she had a miscarriage and got pneumonia.
And how long were they married?
Well, from 1919, and she died in 1923.
So then when did you and Grandpa get married?
In he was, we got married in 1925.